Let's discuss these developments further with Professor Everisto Benyera, Professor of African Politics at the University of South Africa. He joins us via Zoom from Pretoria. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor Benyera. So let's begin with the big news here, which is the ANC losing power for the first time in 30 years. Why do you think that happened?
Thank you very much for having me, and a good afternoon to you. It is a very complex coming together of many structural and systemic issues to the oldest liberation movement in Africa, which was formed in 1914. And what we are seeing here is what can be termed the case of the liberation movement in power after 30 years. And for the African National Congress, it lost power because of a number of factors. Firstly, the economy in South Africa is still in the hands of a predominantly white minority population. Secondly, there are a lot of unfulfilled liberation promises which the African National Movement made to the people of South Africa as contained in the famous Freedom Charter and also in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. Secondly, there is what I can term the inadequacies of the liberation movement in power, coupled with such things as corruption, poor cadre deployment, and the indecision of the ruling party in South Africa to deal with errant, corrupt, and thieving party members, which then bred a culture of executive impunity. And when confronted with these challenges, what the fifth administration of President Cyril Ramaphosa did was not the best, which is rule by proxy. In other words, too many commissions of inquiry with no real consequences. This then resulted in another challenge, factionalism, one of which was then externalized, resulting in the formation of the Umkhonto weSizwe Party, led by its former president, President Jacob Zuma. In a nutshell, these are the issues that made the African National Congress lose power.
Right. Having said that, it still has the majority of the share of the voters at 40%. And so a lot of people are looking at the ANC as the party with a say in choosing which other party to partner with in these coalition talks. But let me ask, what options do the other parties have? Do they get a say in forming a coalition government? How does it work?
The best option for other political parties is to coalesce around the African National Congress for policy certainty and continuity. But the problem here is that in South Africa, we do not have a well-defined national interest around which the political parties can coalesce. In the absence of a well-defined, well-articulated, well-agreed upon national interest, what then happens in coalition talks is that it becomes a game of numbers more than ideological alignment. The result is that it will breed coalition instability, as witnessed in the cities of Johannesburg, Pretoria, and Ekurhuleni at provincial level. So I think before they jump into bed with one another, they need to define that national interest around which they will coalesce and not more of a game of numbers.
Right, and that leads me now to my next question, which is, do we expect ideological changes by some parties as they enter coalition negotiations?
Ideological posturing is usually done in the pre-election phase. Post-election realism requires compromise and pragmatism. And also here in South Africa, ideologies are not that very far apart and reconcilable. It is the practicalities on which these political parties differ, for example, on how to regulate human movement within the region. Others call it the problem of the undocumented illegal immigrants. The other challenge is how to provide universal health care. We saw the problem signing the National Health Insurance into an Act of Parliament, the issue of how to redistribute land, the issue how to make the country energy secure. Ideologically, political parties are not far apart. They are merely on different points along the same continuum. So finding each other would not be a big ideological compromise. So I think they will meet the constitutional deadline to find each other within 2 weeks, so that when the Chief Justice Raymond Zondo convenes Parliament for Parliament to elect the president, the proverbial ducks will be in a row.